pushed his way out and he was a butterfly. Oh. You want the other book, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Back in a second, babe. Herbie, have you seen the book that Franklin loves? Not that one. We did that one yesterday, and I know he loves it, but here we are. It's here. See, we're going for something a little bit more fun today, yeah?
Increase of the cytoplasm. Yes.
Comfortable?
It's a little big. You save me any of that schnapps?
Not as much as I should have. Sorry. Next time.
Mr. Stark, how are your levels?
Levels at 100%.
Good.
We may dim half the lights in Brooklyn, but we are ready. As we'll ever be.
Agent Carter, don't you think you would be more comfortable in the booth?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
of course.
good.
Sorry.
Do you hear me? Is this on? Ladies and gentlemen, today we take not another step towards annihilation, but the first step on the path to peace. We begin with a series of micro-injections into the subject's major muscle groups. The serum infusion will cause immediate cellular change. And then, to stimulate growth, the subject will be saturated with vital rays.
That wasn't so bad.
That was penicillin.
Serum infusion, beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, Mr. Stark. Stephen, can you hear me?
Probably too late to go to the bathroom, right?
We will proceed.
That's 10%. 20%. 30. That's 40%. Vital signs are normal. That's 50%. 60. 70.
Shut it down!
Stephen!
Shut it down!
Kill the reactor, Mr. Stark! Turn it off! Kill it! Kill the reactors!
No! Don't! I can do this!
That's 100%!
Mr. Stark?
Stephen?
Son of a bitch did it.
I did it. Yeah. I think we did it. You actually did it.
How do you feel?
Taller.
You look taller.
Steve Rogers' return in Avengers Doomsday may have just leaked, and if this image is real, it represents the most dramatic comeback in the MCU since the Infinity Saga. Not the hopeful, bright Captain America we remember, but a hardened, older survivor from a universe that may have already collapsed. Over the last few days, an alleged leak began circulating through multiple Marvel insider circles, showing a version of Steve unlike anything we've seen before. Long hair, a thick, rugged beard, a heavier and more tactical coat, a darker color palette, an expression that looks like he hasn't known peace in years. This is not a flashback, nor in used footage, nor a stylized edit. This looks like something entirely new, something built for the tone of Avengers Doomsday, a film rumored to deal with collapsing timelines, incursions, and the return of cosmic-level threats. What immediately caught the attention of fans and insiders is how detailed the visual is. The lighting, the textures of the clothing, and even the way the shadows fall on his face match the kind of test shots Marvel uses when preparing a new character variant. According to well-known insiders like My Time to Shine Hello, Can We Get Some Toast, and Daniel RPK, Marvel has been quietly planning the return of an older Steve variant for months. This is not the Steve who lived his final days with Peggy. This is someone else entirely, someone shaped by war, loss, and the destruction of entire universes. And this redesign isn't random. Marvel never changes a hero's look unless the story demands it. When Thor changed before Ragnarok, it symbolized the death of the old Asgard and the rebirth of a new version of him. When Captain America became Nomad during Infinity War, it reflected the fracture of the Avengers and his own loss of identity. When Loki gained his TVA redesign, it represented the collapse of his purpose and the rewriting of his entire life. So when Steve appears older, more rugged, and visibly worn down, it's not an aesthetic update, it's narrative language. Everything about his appearance screams survivor. The long unkempt hair, the thick beard, the tired eyes, the posture of someone who has seen too much and lost too much. If we connect this to the direction Marvel is reportedly taking with Doomsday, one possibility rises above the rest. The Steve Rogers may be a survivor of an incursion. In Marvel lore, an incursion occurs when two universes collide, destroying one or both. The MCU introduced this concept clearly in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, hinting that collapsing realities would become central to the multiverse saga. If this Steve escaped a universe moments before its destruction, or watched it fall with no way to stop it, that would explain the broken, worn-out version we're seeing. Reports from Production Weekly already confirmed that Avengers Doomsday will involve multiple timelines collapsing at once. Combine that with Kevin Feige's statement in multiple interviews that no one has ever truly gone in the multiverse, and suddenly Steve's return doesn't just seem possible, it seems strategically planned. In late 2023 and early 2024, both Deadline and The Hollywood Reporter published pieces suggesting that Chris Evans had been in quiet negotiations regarding a limited return to the MCU. Nothing definitive, but enough to show that discussions were real. The aesthetics of the leak also match several pieces of concept art related to Secret Wars that surfaced in 2023, dark environments, fractured worlds, and older variants of characters who survived universal collapse. Nothing about this Steve looks like the classic Captain America. He looks like a man who has been running from or fighting against things far bigger than anything we saw in the Infinity Saga. What this means is simple. If the leak is real, Marvel isn't bringing Steve back for nostalgia. They're bringing him back because the multiverse saga is heading into a level of devastation where only a battle-scarred, timeline-broken Steve Rogers makes narrative and emotional sense. This isn't the return of a symbol, it's the return of a survivor. Once we understand that this version of Steve Rogers may come from a universe that has already collapsed, the next question becomes inevitable. How exactly does he return to the MCU's main timeline? And interestingly, there are 3 scenarios that align almost perfectly with everything Marvel has been building across films, series, and leaks. The first possibility is tied directly to Doctor Doom. In the comics, especially during the 2015 Secret Wars storyline, Doom becomes a godlike figure who collects survivors from dying universes, shaping them into a patchwork reality. If Marvel adapts even a fraction of that storyline, it's entirely plausible that this rugged, older Steve Rogers is a survivor Doom personally saved from an annihilated timeline. A Steve rescued not for noble reasons, but because Doom sees value in him or intends to use him as a pawn. This would create immediate tension, and it would explain why Steve looks like someone who's been living on the edge of extinction. The second possibility is even darker. This Steve may come from a universe where the Avengers lost everything. A world where Thanos won permanently, or where Ultron succeeded in wiping out humanity, or where Kong fractured time so deeply that Steve became stranded in a barren, dying Earth. Imagine Captain America watching every hero he fought beside fall one by one, until he became the last man standing, surviving only through sheer willpower. That experience alone would reshape him into the man we see in the leak, still standing, still fighting, but hollowed out by everything he's endured. It would be one of the most emotionally powerful variants Marvel could bring into the MCU. The third possibility involves the TVA. After the events of Loki, the TVA transformed from a timeline police force into a guardianship system attempting to stabilize the collapsing multiverse. They've been shown recruiting timeline anchors, individuals whose presence strengthens fragile universes. Steve Rogers is one of the strongest anchors Marvel has, someone who represents order, moral balance, and narrative weight. Bringing in an older Steve, one forged through loss and survival, would be an intentional TVA decision to save the sacred timeline from falling apart. And this version of Steve, disciplined yet broken, would be the ideal soldier for a war beyond understanding. But beyond the story mechanics, there's another reason Marvel may be preparing Steve's return right now. The MCU needs emotional gravity. It needs legacy. It needs someone who can bridge the gap between the old phases and the new. The multiverse saga is massive, ambitious, and chaotic by nature. Dozens of timelines, dozens of variants, countless threats. To ground this chaos, Marvel needs a character who audiences deeply connect with. Steve Rogers is that character. He represents everything that made the Infinity Saga powerful: sacrifice, loyalty, leadership, and hope. Even as a variant, even as a broken survivor, his presence stabilizes the narrative. This new appearance, older, darker, worn by war, isn't just a cosmetic update. It symbolizes the direction Marvel is taking. A shift away from bright cosmic adventures into the desperation of collapsing realities. A move from heroes who believe they could save everyone, to warriors fighting just to save what remains. If this leak is real, Steve isn't returning for nostalgia. He's returning because the multiverse is dying, and even now he refuses to stand down. And that brings us to the final question. Is this leak real? Based on the sources, the timing, the concept art, and Marvel's narrative trajectory, the return of Steve Rogers feels not only possible, but inevitable. Maybe this leaked image is from a test shoot, maybe from early footage, or maybe it's our first real look at the Steve Rogers who will step into the battlefield of Avengers, Doomsday, and Secret Wars. A Steve who has seen entire universes fall, and still chooses to fight. Now I want to know what you think. Do you believe the leak? Do you like this darker, older version of Steve Rogers? And how do you think Marvel will bring him back into the story? Because if this image is real, the MCU is about to change in a way none of us were prepared for. I am Mr. Screen, and I'll see you in our next leak.